And welcome back to Disciples of the Force. I had a burp. I knew it was coming. I tried to get it out before we started. It gives you a little 5-second countdown, and it happened right when we started. So sorry for the giggles right in your ears. It's been a bit, but we're excited to be back. Got my good pal Austin over here. How you doing, buddy?
Howdy, man. Good to be back.
I call you buddy? Dude. I didn't mean to say that to you.
That's fine, dude. I'm over that.
Yeah, that's funny. I am too. It doesn't affect me.
Really, bud?
Well,
really doesn't?
I take it back. I think it just has to be who's saying it. Like if it's an old dude calling me bud, I'm probably not gonna like it. Like,
yeah, no, that makes sense.
50-year-old, like, what's up, bud? No.
Also, I'm probably never calling you buddy to your face, but if I'm talking to anybody, I'm gonna say my buddy.
Oh yeah, my buddy. You know? Yeah. Real. Yeah, but we got some news, some Star Wars nudes. Sorry about that.
Star Wars news.
Austin's gonna take us into it.
Okay, lots of news, as Spenny said. First bit here, Skeleton Crew news. We're super excited for that. Mick Giacchino, son of Michael Giacchino,
good job.
Is going to be the composer for Skeleton Crew. If you don't know Michael Giacchino, he composed Rogue One. He composed The Batman. He did a lot of Marvel stuff. So basically, if you've seen a popular comic book movie or Star Wars movie within the past 10 years, Michael Giacchino probably composed at least one of those movies. So,
which is a big win for this show.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much going for it, in our opinions. My opinion, not yours. I don't want to throw you in there.
No, I'm in there. Visually, I'm not super excited for this, but that's good news. So, but I also don't know Mick. I like Michael.
Yeah,
I don't know if Mick is good at anything. I'm sure he is, but
probably just terrible.
Yeah. Big news right here. Star Wars The Acolyte has been canceled by Disney.
Canceled.
Not only canceled, but like
eradicated or whatever.
Like you go on there. I saw this screenshot of people trying to shop Acolyte merch or like toys or whatever they had, what they were providing. That's all scrubbed from the Disney site, which is crazy.
Yeah. And I was reading the comments on that post that you sent, and it was pretty, I'd say 70-30. 70% were just like, yeah, good. And then there's this 30% of like, it's almost like a cult following, which is interesting. And they're like, it wasn't as bad yet. And then some people were like, but we got Darth Plagueis. There was something there. So I don't know. It's definitely amongst the 30% are pretty pissed.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we'll have to rank the shows one of these times. Because I don't know if that's the worst Star Wars show.
I say Book of Boba Fett's pretty bad.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't want to say it, but that's
pretty bad.
But yeah, pretty crazy. Same thing. I got on Reddit, got on X, formerly Twitter, and people are pretty bummed about it. They're like, I saw a petition on Reddit.
I did see that
to get it back, and I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy, man.
Which if Disney's taking it off, I don't know if your petition's going to do much.
I saw an interesting comment that was like, well, the Acolyte name doesn't really make sense now that we know who the Acolyte is. Like, there's no mystery anymore. So maybe they rebrand it and use these characters in a different High Republic show.
Okay.
Whatever, maybe. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I was surprised at how early they canceled it. Yeah. I thought it would have been maybe a year or so. Like, I didn't even think it'd be an official. This is canceled. I thought it would just be like,
just shelved.
Yeah, so that was surprising to me.
Yeah, because you even go back a few weeks on this podcast, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought." Sorry.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay.
But yes, sorry. Yeah, we didn't know the plans for it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We were go back a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how it probably wouldn't get canceled because they were initially reporting that the first episode was like a huge boom for Disney Plus, one of the big ones. So, yeah, I don't know. Pretty interesting. Disney. Oh, sorry.
I think you're going to say what I'm going to say, so I'm not going to say it. I am going to defend my friend Austin for not remembering. He's tired, okay?
I'm very tired.
I've had some lack of sleep, so don't be mean to him.
Listen, guys, I want to apologize formally for my conduct on this podcast because I feel like the past few times, and few times I mean past 6 months or so, I haven't been giving it my all. So I'm going to give it my all.
Oh, I think you've been giving your all.
Okay.
You got enough for me when I'm here.
Oh, good.
That's all I can ask for.
Yeah. Okay, so what I was going to say about Disney, which I'm sure you were also going to say, we haven't talked about it on this podcast. I did cover it on my other podcast briefly.
Film Fixation. Go
Film
give a listen if
Fixation,
you like movies.
shouts out, plug. Disney, pretty crazy. So there was an incident at one of the Disney parks, I can't remember which one, where a doctor had an allergic reaction to something in her food, and she died. Is this what you were going to do?
No.
Oh, that's crazy.
Go ahead.
So she died at Disneyland or Disney World due to an allergic reaction. That was the restaurant's fault because they went to extreme lengths to make sure that there was not an allergen in there.
Okay.
So she died as a result. So her husband files a wrongful death lawsuit. And have you heard of this, or were you?
No, this is all news.
This
I'm,
is all news.
I'm off, dude.
Her husband files a wrongful death lawsuit, saying, "Hey, I want $50,000 in damages because this was preventable. I want to pay for her funeral and other expenses."
That's pretty low for a lawsuit, especially the $1 billion company.
Yeah, extremely low.
Yeah.
And the fact that we even know about this is crazy because what Disney does, they say, "No, we don't owe you $50,000. When you signed up a year ago for your Disney Plus subscription, your free trial, you agreed to never sue Disney."
No way.
And so they said, we don't owe you anything.
Whoa.
And so he prepares a lawsuit and he's like, well, okay, so first off, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. Pay $50,000. Keep it out of the news completely.
Yeah, no one's got to know.
And so this was their official position for like 2 or 3 days. And it was being reported that they just weren't going to pay because he had agreed to basically let them kill his wife.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
So
harvest our organs. That's that whole South Park episode with iTunes.
Yeah.
The Sentai Pad.
It's true, by the way. We'll have to talk after the podcast. Yeah. So anyway, he prepared a suit, and now they've tried to walk it back, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna fight this guy's things. We'll settle and we'll pay him."
But your damage is
But
done.
the damage is done.
Now people know that we can't sue you.
Yeah. I'd like to
I question-
know what happened to their stock in those 2 or 3 days, because
Jeez.
all that to say, Disney is in a bad spot, and maybe they needed to cut this show to save some money because they're going to get the crap suit out of them, or their stock price is going to drop.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. What I was going with is that we have talked about on the podcast that Disney's not making new stuff. They're only doing sequels, right? They're already just. We saw how many shows they're putting out, or movies that are all sequels except for one. And what I was going to say is I wonder if just Acolyte falls into that. Like, well, we tried a new thing yet again.
Yeah,
didn't
just
work.
trim the fat.
Let's get it out of here. Because this was Star Wars, but it wasn't anything built off the Skywalker saga. So we know these don't work. We got to be done with them. So I wonder
It's
if
a real
that's what they
shame.
think.
Huge shame.
Yeah, I felt like this show needed to do well if we wanted to see High Republic stuff, which might be a while. But hopefully maybe they'll make an adaptation to the books.
We'll never find out who that guy at the end was, the green guy with the pointy ears.
It's like, they talk about Darth Plagueis. I was like, no, I think we know. But
Yeah, I think
who? Is it Yaddle? Maybe it's Yaddle.
could be Yaddle. Or it could be Baby Yoda.
Yeah, maybe it's little Grogu. That's good. What other news you had? I think you had.
Okay, next bit of news. Adria Arjona, my queen. Also,
Baby.
I was talking to this guy today, a janitor at my office,
Nice.
and he's from Colombia. Very cool kid, 20 years old.
Heck yeah.
He's living here alone on a work visa, grinding. We love
Good grind.
our guys. He was telling me about places I need to visit in Colombia. One of the places he said was Arjona, which is right near Barranquilla.
Okay.
Or is it by Barranquilla? Anyway, it's up there in the north.
Mm-hmm.
All that to say, Adria Arjona, I wonder if her family's from there. I don't know what. Do you know what Arjona means?
No. Do you?
I don't know. I don't know if it means anything.
No, it
Let's
might
look
not.
it up. Sorry,
I mean, sometimes it's just a name.
dude. Sometimes I'm surprised that people still listen to this podcast. Like I get on and I'm like, man, we get views because I go on little tangents like this. Arjona.
Also, just so you know, we're talking about Bix from
Yes, Bix.
from Andor.
Bix Caldine from Andor. Okay, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
It's a name. Okay, so she goes on record saying it's effing better. It's so much better. Season 2 of Andor better than season 1, which I'm pumped for.
Bold
Yeah, that's bold.
statement.
So that'll be awesome. I can't wait for that.
Yes, that would be. I mean, she seems pretty fired up about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
she got a tattoo of
She did?
Yeah, of her character's name, Bix.
I did not see that.
I think it's like an X. I can't remember, but it was like she had her. It was in that same post,
Okay.
like one of the other slides said that, or maybe it was in the description. I can't remember, but basically she.
I got a big tattoo. I didn't even read past the.
Yep, she got a big tattoo, and I guess her dresser or makeup, whoever did like a stick poke and put it in during one of the things, which is really cool. So she's dedicated to the character.
That's crazy, dude. I must have just been scrolling and just sent that to you. She says a lot here, and I didn't read any of it. That's crazy. So go look into what she said, I guess. I'm not going to read it all right now. Okay. And then 2 more things, and then I just want to touch base on this other thing we saw.
Okay, sounds good.
Music by John Williams, which is an all-new documentary on the life and career of John Williams, is coming out, which will be awesome. Let me see if I can get a date for that. November 1st. So, one of the greatest composers of all time. Maybe the best. Who's got a better resume? Zimmer?
I think Mozart, but I did read a thing when I was going through like background stuff for A New Hope. They talked about how like they genuinely believe John Williams will, years to come, will be placed amongst those Mozart, Beethoven.
Yeah.
Like a modern day. I was like, that's crazy.
Dude, it's amazing. I mean, like, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about A New Hope.
Spoiler.
Right.
It's going to be the title of the episode.
Right from the beginning, dude, that opening crawl, you forget how hard John Williams just comes in. Imagine being in that movie theater in 1977 and just...
You're like, what the flick?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
good.
That's what made the movie work, is John Williams, so that's awesome.
It's true.
Okay, last little thing here. This is just a little graphic, I don't know.
Sure.
Of upcoming projects for Star Wars.
Okay.
So, Young Jedi Adventures, which we constantly report on, we love that. August 14th, 2024. Yep.
It already came out, season 2, baby.
Skeleton Crew is coming out December 3rd, 2024. Star Wars Andor sometime in 2025, season 2.
Hopefully early or mid.
Yeah.
But I'm not stringing
it better be early.
Yeah.
Star Wars, dude, it sucks that we don't have like an animated show to look forward to.
I know.
Other than Young Jedi Adventures.
Every week, dude.
But like, that's the nice thing about the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Like, it was always kind of a sudden drop.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, on Instagram, it'd be like, we're releasing in 6 weeks. Sick.
We don't have, we're
not getting that. Star Wars Ahsoka in development, which I don't know if we ever confirmed that was.
I didn't know that was slated for season 2.
I
think we touched on it, but I don't think we had it confirmed.
That's right. Okay. So season 2. Sorry if you can hear a dog barking. Our studio, which is not in my parents' basement, has a dog somewhere. Okay. May 22nd, 2026, The Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Hell yeah.
Star Wars Dawn of Jedi, that's the James Mangold movie.
I'm excited for that.
No date yet, in development. Dave Filoni film, which is supposed to be... Oh, my word. I'm so sorry.
Well,
do you think that's picking that up for the dog?
No, every time I've listened back and we hear it barking, I don't hear it.
Okay.
And if you hear it,
sorry if you can. It's so loud right now. Untitled Dave Filoni film, which is set in New Republic. I didn't know if that was different from The Mandalorian and Grogu, but this is saying it is.
Huh.
So
I didn't know that
either. Star Wars New Jedi Order, that's the Rey movie that is being directed by
Steven Spielberg's daughter, Stephanie Spielberg.
Yes.
I don't know who is
Stephanie Obed Chinoy or something.
Oh, is it actually Stephanie?
Let's see.
That's crazy. I just went with her alliteration. It's the first thing that came to my mind.
Whoa. Not Stephanie. Not even close. Charmin Obed Chinoy.
Charmin.
Yeah. Whatever. My word, I've never heard this dog bark like that. There might be somebody up there trying to kill her.
Oh, no. They're going to get us.
And then, get this, man. This still says the untitled Taika Waititi film.
Really?
That's in like crazy development hell.
Yeah.
That's never happened. The Lando series and Rogue Squadron, the Patty Jenkins film.
Yeah.
Those things are never happening in my eyes.
Yeah.
They've just been around since 2019 and nothing's moved on them. So
maybe since his Taika Waititi, they're holding on for it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. And they might
But
have
dude, he's falling off, bro.
yeah. I didn't see his movie. It was like a feel-good movie, like a soccer movie. What was it?
Oh, gosh. Next Goal Wins, starring Michael Fassbender. I didn't see it. I heard it was terrible. So
I'll give it a watch.
it's a shame. Yeah. Hey, you've been grinding on Letterboxd, man. I've really appreciated that.
Thank
That's
you.
sick.
I've been watching a movie every day. That's what I decided.
Gosh, that's so sick.
Because I have a bunch, and I'm like, this is a lot of movies. I finally watched Casino, which has been on my list for
Yeah,
years.
4.5, man. That made me cry.
Because that's bad.
Your review. No, I love Casino. That's a 5-star movie for me, man.
Did you give it 5?
I think it might be a 4.
Because I thought yours might have been. No, you did. You did give it 5 because you said trying hard not to give every Scorsese film a 5-star
Okay,
rating.
yeah. Hell yeah.
But it's the life I chose. I said that's funny. I don't think I liked it though because I forget you can like the comments. I didn't realize till today. I didn't realize
like
I
my
just forgot.
effing comment, bro.
I'll go back.
Go
I'll
like
go
it.
back and give it a like.
But yeah, okay. Sorry.
Anyway, what am I talking about? Okay, what else we got? Oh, I did want to say this about the Grogu film.
Go.
I always get nervous when they give me snippets of movies because I'm like, that looks bad.
Yeah.
And when they're sliding down that little mountain, when whatever that little thing is,
Yeah.
didn't look great. But I always think that, and usually I'm like, oh, it looks fine.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, dude, we might need to stop this podcast. I know I say that every week, but I just it's so hard for me to get excited for anything, especially when Disney's making moves like it is.
Yeah. I think it's hard because today as I was watching this, I'm like, I feel like Star Wars really has just lost where it was
Yeah.
as I was watching New Hope. And we can talk about it later. But yeah, I think I can honestly say, and maybe I'll be wrong, I'm not excited for the Grogu Mandalorian movie.
Yeah.
Even when they announced, I'm like, okay. But to me, it just seems like it's going to be season whatever of the Mandalorian just cut to a film. That's how I'm visualizing it, and and I'm going to keep my thought there because maybe I'll be wrong, and it'll be a great actual in-depth movie. But for right now, that's where I'm keeping my hopes at. For it. So
Okay, I'm there for you.
cool. All right, so we're going to talk about this really underground film that no one's really talked about for years. It's kind of like, I don't know, a diamond in the rough. It's called A New Hope, Star Wars. I don't know if you ever heard of it. So some background information. If you do hear those dogs, I'm sorry, they are going crazy.
Yeah. I might have to pause and make you do a monologue, and I might have to go up and get them.
Okay.
But sorry, go ahead.
So some background of the film. Let's go to the filming of A New Hope. George Lucas accepted $150,000 to film Star Wars: New Hope, which was pretty low for directors. But he had two conditions. Two condition was rights to all the sequels, which is huge. And the second is something that will never, ever happen in a bajillion years, is rights to all the merchandising of the movie. It blows my mind like today thinking about a studio making that deal. Because, I mean, George has made billions off of that.
There's no way they could have predicted that.
Right.
You know?
But that'll never, in a million years, never going to happen again.
I mean, there were like the Marvel deal with Spider-Man. Sony owns the rights to make films and TV shows, and Marvel reserves the right to use Spider-Man in Disney, Marvel Studios within Disney reserves the right to use him in their parks and to use all the merchandising. So they make more than Sony Pictures does off of Spider-Man just from toys and stuff.
That's crazy.
Sorry, go on.
No, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
But it's like,
puts it in perspective.
If you have your commodity, pick the merchandise, man. If you're given the choice, merchandise is where it's at.
And that's the biggest thing is everyone's like, George literally just bet on himself.
Yeah.
Like he just said, this is going to either be a flop or going to be great and I can make some major cash. And he did. The sequels too is crazy. Anyway, so the next thing I have here is we know that Star Wars is inspired by Kurosawa. But, geez, I'm drinking way too much sodies.
Uh-oh.
They talk about how the opening of A New Hope, right? We get the opening crawl, iconic, and then boom, right into the action. Star Destroyer. It's going after you. You're like, what's happening? And it just throws you right into the action. There's not like this long thing. And that's what George said he really wanted to do with Star Wars. He wanted to just throw you into the universe right off the bat. And that's what Kurosawa used to do.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, that's awesome. His exact quote was, Kurosawa would open up in the middle of a 14th century Japan and not explain anything. He trusted his audience, and I thought, not only does that work, but it works great. And that's where it came from, which is really cool.
Dude, I wish you could see my iPhone wallpaper right now. You know who it is?
Is it George Lucas kissing Kurosawa?
No, but that'd be sick. It's Akira Kurosawa.
It's him himself?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a picture of him and Toshiro Mifune,
I don't know who that
his
is.
like main actor.
Okay.
They collaborated over like 12 or plus films.
Is he the one that George wanted to play Obi-Wan? Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah.
That's the actor.
That's him. Yeah.
Okay. You can tell the fans.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Yeah, pretty cool. The next thing that I thought was cool, I did a little background research. Brian De Palma is the one who told George he needed to write an opening crawl because he said, I don't know what's happening when you're throwing. Like, what is the background? Like, it's good to throw us in, but you got to give me a little bit of heads up. And so basically, George said, okay. And he did what George Lucas does, just put a bunch of words. I think he said it was 6 paragraphs long. It was like, what the hell is, I can't, give me that. And so he took it and kept all this space jargon, is what he said, and then made it concise. And so I thought, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. It's really so fortunate that George released this under the circumstances that he did, because like you look at who his friends were at the time, who he went to school with, like some of the greatest filmmakers of all time, all just buddies.
Yeah.
And like you look at all the stories of him putting out stuff, screening it for his film buddies before he released anything, and they would be like, this is garbage or whatever. You know, they'd give him crazy feedback. And you look at his actions of whether he took their advice or whether he trusted his gut. It's really interesting, the kind of the space he carved out. And like it wouldn't have happened if he didn't have those guys.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Yeah. And that, like, when reading his book, I was like, my favorite thing is just they talk like Steven Spielberg. Like, I don't know, dude, that just doesn't fit. He's like, okay. It's really cool. He had a good support system, I guess you could say. Yeah. The next thing I have here, I didn't know that Carrie Fisher was a Nepo baby.
Yeah.
Never knew that till today.
Yeah. What's her mom's name? Judy Garland?
Close. Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie Reynolds.
You're same.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Time era. And the reason why George chose her, because he was like, when she walked in, someone said, "You're Debbie Reynolds' daughter, right?" And she said, "No. Debbie Reynolds is my mom."
Damn.
And he was like, "Okay, I like the little spice." So I was like, "That's really cool."
Yeah.
And one of the cooler things that I learned today was the casting of Han Solo. I knew there was a bunch of people, but I didn't really pay attention to the names until today. But it was originally like he was really feeling Billy D. Williams, who then plays Lando. He wanted him. And he's like, no, I want to go with Glenn Turman, who I don't know. And then he said, no, I'm going to cast a white boy.
Yep.
And so then the finalists who actually turned down the role when it was offered to him was Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Burt Reynolds. Could you imagine any of those people as Han Solo? Dude, that's insane.
That's amazing.
Al Pacino is one I was like, I could see it. I could kind of see it.
Any of those guys can make it work, except Burt. Burt's a little too old.
I don't even know what is Burt. I know his face, but what is he in?
Boogie Nights. You know Boogie Nights?
Yeah, Boogie Nights.
He's like the main guy that makes it all happen.
Okay.
That's when he's older. That's in the 90s, obviously. But even back in the 70s, like I don't think he works as well.
Yeah.
He's Burt. Anyway, watch this movie called Deliverance, dude. Burt Reynolds is so funny in that.
Is he?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, But basically, they said that I think it was Al Pacino. Was like the role was his. He was saying he's like, I just didn't get it, so I just turned it down. He's like, I just don't understand this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And of course, if you don't know, the reason why Harrison Ford got it is because he was reading the lines because he had worked with George Lucas in American Graffiti, and as he was just reading the lines with all the actors, he's like, oh, this is our guy.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And initially that worked against him because George didn't want to work with him again because he didn't want to have like a guy.
Right.
One of his good buddies, Scorsese, had De Niro, and like he was his guy they always worked together. For whatever reason, George Lucas didn't want that relationship with Harrison Ford. Obviously, we know what happened, and he did become a guy for,
Indiana Jones.
you know, but it's just interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, that is just kind of the background stuff that I thought, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know those things. I also like the fact that him and Spielberg had, and I'm not saying this to Austin. Austin knows all these things. I'm saying this to you guys. And if you know it, you're just getting a refresher.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of people might know a lot of this.
Yeah.
But it is just so cool to talk about it. And it's so interesting because when we talked about watching this, I was like, yeah, I've seen it a million times. I don't really need to watch it again. Mm-hmm. But then I turn it on the other day, and I'm like, this is a totally different movie. Yep. Like, as I've aged, as I've gotten way more into film and like understood the context of a lot of these stories coming together, as I've gotten into Kurosawa films, because George Lucas put me onto Kurosawa, like this movie has completely changed for me. So if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I know all this junk, go educate yourself, go get back into the, read George's biography, watch some Kurosawa films, watch some 70s movies if you're not that familiar with them. Just rewatch the movie, dude. It's a different experience every time. Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
No, you're saying it. You're saying what I'm feeling.
Yeah, brother.
Seriously, because this before on Letterboxd I had this movie as a 4.5, and then today I was like, it's a 5. Yeah. I don't know. The reasons why I didn't is because I was like, oh, Luke is just so whiny in this film, but he really isn't as bad as in my mind as I remember. Yeah. He still whines, but it was in my mind. I felt like every little thing. But as the film progressed, I was like, you know what? Maybe I didn't take into account his character arc. Yeah. I'm like, duh, of course he's going to be a whiny kid. He's just like a kid on a desert planet. So, of course, as time goes on, he goes on this crazy adventure. He develops. And so that's what ultimately gave me that half star for him.
Yeah, that's so funny. I had the same thing where, like, I think because I'd seen it so much, I was like, this isn't as good as this isn't a pillar of cinema where it's just one of the best movies out there. It really is, man. And, like, I think it's kind of diluted for us now of like the cultural phenomenon that this was. Like we've heard that our entire lives. Yeah, Star Wars was the biggest thing ever. I was just reminded of it a couple times this week. First, I went to watch Alien Romulus, and Alien, the original movie, was made in 1979 by Ridley Scott, who's one of George's contemporaries. They were working at the same time. And Ridley Scott, in his interview with Letterboxd for this Alien Romulus press tour, he was like, my 4 favorite films are these. And he gets to Star Wars. He's like, Star Wars is one of my favorite films because when I was a young filmmaker, I wanted to do dramatic films that had like in-depth stories. And then I saw Star Wars and I was depressed for 3 months because I knew I would never make a movie that good.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, Ridley Scott is one of, he's not exactly my guy, but he's one of the best filmmakers over the last 50 years. Like the fact that he went to see Star Wars and was depressed. Yeah. It's just crazy. Another thing I was reminded of, William Holden. Let me make sure. Sorry.
All good, brother.
William Goldman is the writer of one of my favorite movies ever, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So I started listening to his book today called Adventures in the Screen Trade. And he talks about, he wrote it in 1983. And within the first 2 chapters, he mentioned Star Wars twice.
Really?
And it's like, this was just everything everybody was talking about. It's insane,
it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, so they put it in perspective to me in one of these facts I was going through. They were like, when Star Wars was released, it was released to 80 theaters.
Yeah.
And then they said, who owns it? 20th Century? Who is it?
20th Century Fox.
They said, if you want, I can't remember the film that was coming out later that year that was everyone was anticipating. He said, if you want to show this film, you need to show Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so 400 and whatever said, okay, we'll do it. They said by the end of the summer, it was 1,200 theaters across the United States were showing it. And they said, to put that in perspective, Jaws, when it came out, and it was groundbreaking. It was the #1 film at the time.
Yeah, played for a whole summer.
It only was showing in, I think it was like 600 theaters. So it was like, it surpassed, almost doubled what it was doing. And so when I read that, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So it was the phenomenon, and what the impact was crazy.
It's crazy.
So cool.
Man, it would have been so cool to be a moviegoer back then.
Dude,
you'd
have literally experienced like movie history. I mean, it's insane. Like it sounds so dumb to say, but it's like literally you would have experienced one of the craziest things.
It's a totally different vibe, and I know I'm like a snobbish, stupid cinephile sometimes because I have a film podcast. I don't know if you guys know
Film
that.
Fixation, check it out.
Film Fixation plug. But like movie culture and movies in general were just better in the 70s, you know? And like to live this and be a part of it. We've lived through history, like movie history, like with the MCU. Like that's historic.
Yeah.
I'm not writing that off, you know?
Yeah, it's a big stuff. I mean, Endgame is probably going to be talked about. Not to this scale,
Yeah.
but it was huge.
No, it was huge.
Yeah.
But like it was just different when you didn't have so much stimulus. Like you couldn't just go home, get on your phone or get on your iPad. Like even in the 70s, man, you saw this movie in theaters and you didn't know when you were going to see it again because tapes weren't that big. I mean, they were, of course, but like you were never going to have that experience again. You think about TV sets in the 70s, you were never going to see this the same way again. And even up until like 2010, 2015 is when we start getting bigger and better TVs. You know, we had them earlier, but they sucked. Like, imagine just seeing something so life-changing and just wanting to go back to the theater and experiencing it because you know it's like fleeting.
Yeah, it's true.
It's amazing.
Right.
We just don't experience that
By
anymore.
the time it came to tape, when you brought it home, your TV's not big. You don't have like surround sound. You're not the same scale.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Just crazy.
Which is also, was it A New Hope that they did the whole THX thing too as well?
I can't remember. I was trying to think about that because
Can't remember what
so
film
he's
it
done
was.
it twice. He did it with digital cinema, which obviously was in the 2000s or in 1999. But yeah, with the Dolby and THX stuff, I don't know when he did that. Well, THX had to be earlier.
Yeah,
it had to be with this
it had to be this
because that's why it's called THX because it's after THX 1131 or 1031.
Yes, his film. Yeah. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think I couldn't remember if it was A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back, but it is A New Hope because if they wanted to, he was watching the movie in his home theater and he's like, this is so good. The sound is perfect. I don't want the sound to sound terrible. I don't know, just a regular place. So if they wanted to show, but that's why I think maybe it was Empire Strikes Back because they were going to want to show it for sure. And he said, if you want to show it, you have to upgrade your audio system.
Yeah, that's probably right.
But definitely the original trilogy is when it happened. I feel like I didn't explain it that well when I was trying to say so, but you understood us.
Yeah, well, oh, jeez.
I will say this, going on your point while you're looking that up, about how the phenomenon. I love that 70s show. I watch all the time. And before Star Wars comes out, because that 70s show goes off of the years, right? It just builds off as it goes on. The main character, he's nerdy, but he's like, whatever. But once 1977, right? So we came out, happens in the show, his whole persona changes and it's all he does. It's like everything. And there's a point where his dad's like, why does this kid like this movie? He's like, I'll go watch it, whatever. He's in the theater and he's like, oh, I get it. Oh, this is good. And so like he becomes a fan. His dad's like this hard ass, whatever. But anyway, this shows like this, how Star Wars that was the culture in the 70s. Like people, you knew Star Wars if you knew it.
Dude, it is so sick. And sorry to answer your question, THX was introduced for Return of the Jedi.
It's the last one.
But you just reminded me, dude. I've watched 2 movies this year where Star Wars merchandise or memorabilia was featured heavily in the movies. They're not making a comment on Star Wars. It's just how the world was. Yeah. So Paris, Texas is one. The kid's whole room is kitted out in Star Wars stuff. Okay. And it's like they don't signal to it or anything. It's like, just this is what a kid's bedroom looks like right now.
Yeah.
Star Wars stuff. And then I watched this movie called Hardcore. You would love it. 1978. It's crazy. But the girl has like a Star Wars calendar in her room, and there's this shot of LA, and there's like advertisements for Star Wars. And it's like, you just don't see that. You don't see that cross section in other movies where there's so much influence from another movie. And it's just, I mean, obviously you do when the creator like puts their influence into it, but where it's just existing in the natural world. And that's what Star Wars was. It was just everywhere. Yeah. So super sick.
So dope. So I do have a few notes from the movie.
Okay.
I want to just jump in. You talked about it just barely, like when you sat down to start the movie. Not just barely, you said in the beginning of the podcast, but you were just like, oh, you're into it. The music there is literally what I had. My first note was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then as I was watching the beginning, I was like, I want to watch this as if I'd never seen Star Wars at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it does such a good job at telling you who everyone is, because you start the film, you're like, who are these people? What are these robots? And then you're talking to this girl, you're like, okay, who is this? Like, and then slowly those answers come. I'm like, and that's what I love, a good film that doesn't just say immediately, hey, where's Princess Leia? Oh, there she is. It just naturally, as the story goes, you're like, oh, that's who she is. Okay. And that's what I really did a great job.
Yeah. So, show don't tell, man.
Yeah.
It's great.
What are we paying by the laser?
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we're referring to when C-3PO and R2-D2 are in the, I almost said escape tunnel. You know, the escape tunnels that are in space. Yeah. Escape pod. And they're about to shoot it. And he says, the commander says, wait, don't shoot them. There's no life forms aboard. And there's a Family Guy episode where they're making fun of that scene, and the guy turns and goes, what are we paying by the laser? Like, why would we not just shoot? Like, there's secret just plans, and this is going, it's not going to do anything. The in-universe explanation within, from a certain point of view, basically the Empire and the Stormtroopers are notorious, I guess it should say infamous, for missing their shots. Everyone knows they suck, even though in this film, Obi-Wan talks about how
only Imperial Stormtroopers could be source pronouns. Man, I can't do an Alec Guinness. That was bad.
I thought it was good.
Okay, sure.
But never do it again.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Anyway, so the Empire had set up a kind of a program that your kill per shot. So basically they're tracking your shots and they're tracking your kills. And so if you were pretty like a good ratio for each shot, you were getting a kill, then you were getting promotions and within the Empire. And so they're saying, and that was what's going on in the book. And so when this happens, he tells them not to shoot because that would affect his status and his ability to go up in the Empire, because they would have shot and not gotten a kill.
Man,
that's the universe explanation.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's the politics behind it all. Also, made to suffer is our lot in life. C-3PO says that, and I'm just like, dude, so sad.
I had forgotten how dramatic and annoying C-3PO is, and it's perfect.
He's very dramatic.
It's so perfect. Like, I just, it's so easy to like, again, write it off when you're looking back as like, oh yeah, all this meshes together, but of course it does. But like, between it's shot beautifully, the scenery everywhere is beautiful, like all the ideas are so big, the scope of this movie is so big, but then there's also like clearly defined, like C-3PO is just so perfectly annoying and like, I don't know,
such a nerd.
Yeah,
such a freaking nerd robot.
It's so easy for this movie to fail, and you read about how hard it was to get off the ground, like how hard it was for George to get funding, how they were pretty much like always bound to fail.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the fact that it works out so perfectly is just amazing. But I was thinking about that literally just watching C-3PO bitch to R2-D2. I was like, this is perfect. This is a perfect movie. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, what you're saying, like, even it got to the point at the very end, they're like 6 weeks from filming, they ran out of money. They needed $3 million more. They give it to him, and they said, but you got to do it in a week.
Yeah.
And so they talk about, I mean, seriously, doomed to fail. Like, they shouldn't have been able to do it. Their hands were tied in England when they were filming there because they could only shoot till 5, and then they were done.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, like you're saying, just bound to fail, and it worked perfectly.
It's crazy.
Let's see here. I don't know how heavy C-3PO's suit is. How heavy do you think that bad boy is?
150 pounds.
Not that heavy. 60 though. I was like 60
That's
pounds.
Crazy.
I'm watching him like go through. I was like, so I wanted to see what Anthony Daniels said, and he just said that he was dying of heat and his feet were just crushed that whole day. I'm like, and he said it was crazy because it was super hot and then freezing cold at night.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, and that's the other thing too. They talk about it in George's biography, and you've probably seen stuff about it. But filming in where did they film? Libya.
The desert?
Tatooine.
Tunisia? I don't know where
Tunisia, that's right. Yes, in North Africa.
Okay.
But like all that stuff where everything was going wrong, nothing's working, and they're all like just dying of heat. That's just terrible. And again, like it's how'd they pull this off?
I know. R2-D2's mechanics stopped working.
Yeah.
Sand is getting... It's just... And you know what? Now I get it. That's why Anakin hates sand. It's because George hates sand because of the first film.
Facts, dude.
Oh my god.
That's crazy, bro.
Another certain point of view story that's brought up is R2D2 and the. Is that an R5? What is that droid? It's an R2 unit, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I can't remember.
I forget its name.
If you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have known. I don't know why.
You've mentioned it for sure. I forget his name. But the reason that droid destroys himself is because him and R2 have a beep conversation while they're with Jawas. And basically, R2D2's like, yo, I have these secret plans. I got to get them to someone. And they just have this whole conversation. And basically, the droid's like, you know what? I want to be a part of something bigger than me.
Yeah.
And so as he's going, when they choose him, that's why he self-destructs so that R2 can go. And because of that, everything happens. So that's the end universe explanation is why he blows up.
He's also in Ahsoka or The Mandalorian, isn't he?
Yeah, I think we talked about
That's why we've been talking about
Yeah.
him recently.
Yeah, he was in one of the shows.
Which is crazy. There's also a non-canon A Legends comic where he's Force sensitive, which I think is just BS. It's just crazy.
All right, here. Let's see. I do love when Obi-Wan and Luke are talking about Anakin.
Yeah.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy.
Oh, dude.
And then I think about, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have if you're listening. Go type in Obi-Wan has PTSD. I think it's what it's called on YouTube, and it's this conversation, and they overlay a lot of the prequel stuff. I get emotional when I watch it. It's good.
Seriously, that's when I watched that scene. That was what I thought of.
Yep.
Seriously.
And then I do wonder if Obi-Wan thought, man, this kid is a friggin' little biatch. Dude, I can't go. I got to stay here. I got to help Uncle Owen. It's like, okay, dude, didn't you just say you wanted to leave this planet?
Yeah.
And guess what? Your uncle got murked, bro. I didn't realize, I always forget how
Graphic.
it's not even graphic, but it is graphic. For the movie.
like just burning
bodies.
Burning
You're like,
bodies. It's crazy.
jeez. Let's see. Skip that. That's not important. Fear will keep the local systems in line, is what Tarkin says.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so cool because talking about Andor, like that's what they were going. They're still going off like we'll be fine. Fear will keep it in line, but we see how their fear is just title. Like it's not real fear. Which I was like, this is why I love Star Wars. Is these little things that play into the other things. I just love it. I was like, damn, that's good.
Sorry, I got to text my old boss.
Hey, get in there. Let's see. This time around, I've never noticed them burning the Jawa bodies. I did not realize that's what they were doing when Luke comes back from seeing Beru and Uncle Owen. There's a fire and R2D2 standing by it, and either it's their bodies or their clothes, but it looks like it's their bodies. The C-3PO is carrying them and then throws it on the fire.
Yeah.
Never noticed that in all my times of watching it, so thought that was interesting.
Sorry, I do want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
I know that this time around when I was watching, I know that the toys were big, and I know why, right?
Okay.
But like when the Jawas are talking, and I've known Jawas my whole life, don't call me out for this, but it reminded me of the Minions.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, kids don't change, bro. They
true.
just love funny talking little people.
That's a really good point.
And I couldn't shake it. And I was like, man, this is so stupid that I'm comparing this to the Minions when the Jawas have been around my whole life, whatever.
But it makes
it's just crazy.
puts
Why?
a comparison, yeah.
Yeah.
Why kids are like, I want a friggin' Jawa.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. And if anyone gives you flack, bring them over here and bust them. I'll take them down. We're the bartender at the cantina.
Yeah.
He doesn't let droids in, right? And the explanation for that was because his family was literally killed by droids in the Clone Wars. And that's kind of the sentiment towards droids, is a lot of people were affected by them, the Separatists, and that's why they don't like them.
Yeah.
So that was the in-universe explanation why they have to keep outside.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I think it's commentary of other stuff that existed in the 70s. So, well, not so much.
Yeah, segregation
but
stuff.
So that's 60s. My bad.
Yeah.
George lived through it, so he put it in the film in the 70s. That's what I meant.
Props for knowing that, bro. That's sick.
Yeah, just some easy trivia.
I also love that scene, and that's one of George's favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
And like one that he regretted all the time because he was like, man, I could have done better. I wanted to do better. But like that is Star Wars to me. When they first walk into the cantina and you're seeing all of these different characters, and it's just stuff you've never seen before, or at least at this time they hadn't. It just does such a good job of world building instantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're up on that hill with Obi-Wan and Luke, and Obi-Wan is like it's the biggest hub of scum and villainy or whatever he says. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Then they go down there and you see all of these super distinct faces, and it's like this is a whole universe. Like you get a glimpse of every face in the galaxy there in like a matter of minutes, and you get a feel for what Star Wars is, and it sets the precedent for everything that comes after it of like what the look and feel of Star Wars is, and it's awesome.
Yeah, no. I remember when I first like used to watch A New Hope. When I got to the cantina scene, I was like, why are they just panning to all these?
Yeah.
There's so many, but like you're saying, it makes sense, and plus it's George's like favorite part. He wants to show this is a crazy place. And that going back, as many of our listeners know, George's ex-wife, Marcia. She saved Star Wars in the editing bay. It's well known. But I've never actually seen some of the original cuts. I watched them today.
Yeah.
And basically the biggest thing that people complained about was the pacing. And one of the things was when we see the opening, as we saw in Star Wars, where they're attacking the rebels and they're trying to get the plans, and C-3PO and R2-D2 are, get off with the escape pod. During that, they were cutting to Luke on Tatooine.
Oh, really?
And he's just sitting there with his robot, his little goggles. It's so bad.
Watching it.
Yeah, and he's like seeing it, and he's like, what is that? What's going on? And then cuts back to what's going on, and he's like, whoa. And he gets his friend. He gets Biggs. He says, Biggs, check that out. There's like a star. He's like, I don't think that's what it is. And they're all talking. And it's just like really messes up the pacing, and then you go back. And one of the biggest reasons that they said we have to cut all that is because, and it works so well, is because when C-3PO and R2-D2 get to the planet, it's like a wasteland we feel it in the beginning. We see a giant skeleton. We see it's creepy. There's just creatures. You don't know it's inhabited by people at all. You just know they're just on this planet and there's creatures. And so when you had Luke in the beginning doing that, it took away all the mystery and all the suspense. You're like, yeah, we already know there's people here.
Yeah.
So I was like, it made sense to just cut all that. Plus, it didn't do anything to the story. It was just showing he had friends named Biggs.
Yeah. But I mean, later in the movie, Biggs is killed, and it's an emotional moment, or it's supposed to be.
And it doesn't.
But at that point, you don't know he's Luke's friend, really.
Yeah.
Like you see them meet up right before they launch,
and then he mentioned his name once.
Yeah.
Before.
So I feel like if they could have left that scene at least where they chat, maybe not there, but like maybe they're walking into the canteen and they meet up or something.
Yes.
I feel like that would have helped.
It would have helped. Yeah. And I do agree because you do, like, when they see each other, you're like, this is a crazy interaction.
Yeah.
Who is that? F is this guy? And I get what you're saying.
So what you were mentioning where Luke is looking up and whatever, I guess I have seen that before. Was that was George's idea and then Marcia cut that out, or that was Marcia's original cut?
No, it was George's original idea, and she said the pacing's weird, it's bad, we gotta cut it. And something that's really cool, I was reading Marcia, years being divorced from George, people always credit it to her, and she's like so humble. She's like this was like a couple years ago. This quote, she was like, I mean, I knew there was a good film there because George made it. I just highlighted it. And it's like, that's really crazy to just go through, because I'm pretty sure the divorce was pretty messy.
Yeah, it was.
Apparently. And for that to happen and then her to still be so humble, like, no, George's just a brilliant guy. It's crazy.
Especially her, dude. Like, I think she probably has more Oscars than George, maybe.
I believe so, because she worked on...
Might have to fact check me. She worked on Taxi Driver. She was a frequent collaborator with Scorsese and a lot of George's friends.
And Coppola, maybe?
Coppola, yeah.
So
she's one of the best film editors of all time.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy that they were together.
Yeah.
Again, the people that George associated with, it's just crazy that all of them were successful. Not because they associated with him, but
just a tight group. Just a good friend.
Just crazy.
Which you'll be seeing in the future. You'll be like, whoa, it's crazy that Spencer knew Austin.
Yeah, and like what?
Which is really cool. But yeah, when I watched the original cut, I was like, this is so bad.
Yeah.
And that's why they cut it. Let's see here. I was going to skip down to the bottom here. I did get the sense. It's because it's funny how as we come out with new shows, there's certain parts of A New Hope that get highlighted to me. One of them was Tarkin when Vader comes in. He's like, "Yo, Obi-Wan's here. I'm kind of jumping a bunch of head, but he's like, Obi-Wan's here. And Tarkin's like, how do you know that? He's like, I can just feel it. This last time was my old master. And Tarkin's kind of like hesitant. And you go to the Obi-Wan series where he was obsessed with trying to find Obi-Wan, and Palpatine's like, you got to stop. And I'm wondering, like, it feeds in so well to A New Hope with it's like clearly Palpatine was like, hey, Tarkin, keep an eye on him. He's got this obsession.
Yeah.
Keep it in check. And that's kind of why he's like, I don't really know. And then I can't remember their alarm starts going off, and then he's like, okay, maybe he is here, whatever.
Yeah.
But it just played really well into it, which is totally incidental. It's not, George didn't plan that years ahead. So that was cool. And let's see here. You can say some things in your mind if you have any. I'm just going to brief over these.
Like I'm just going to be whining about how amazing all of this was, whatever. But, also, the first scene where we're at that kind of round table with the Imperials is so awesome because obviously looking at it in hindsight, you're like, Darth Vader was this well-respected. He was like the next in line to the Emperor. We all know that now. But at that moment, it's still really weird there's like no established pecking order.
Yeah.
They're like kind of making jabs at Darth Vader. There's the one guy that mocks his like ancient religion or whatever, and you're like, oh, Darth Vader is the scary guy that means business, but is he really the leader of all these guys? And it's so interesting that Tarkin is most certainly the leader. Like he is the main, he's the big bad in this, which is really how do you pull that off? Like it's just crazy.
Yeah, well, going with what you're saying, because even I almost said Leia. When Leia shows up and she's like, "Oh, Tarkin, I should have known you were here holding Vader's leash."
Yeah,
you're like, okay, so we know he's the. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it plays so well because then you're like, well, we lost Tarkin, but you go into Empire Strikes Back, you didn't need Tarkin because of how it's all set up. It's just really cool. One thing I do really like about this movie is that their plans don't just perfectly work. Like when Han Solo and Luke, let's see here. Oh, when they're bringing Chewie, when they're trying to do the plan, like, we just have this prisoner ready to bring him in. He's like, I was not notified of this. Stay there.
Yeah.
Let me take a look. This is a little weird. And it's like at this point, the Empire is so like into the nitty gritty. But I feel like when you get to these later movies, or not later movies, but you get to like the sequels, like, and that's kind of the whole thing of the First Orders. They're not very strong. Like, I feel like a lot of those things get slipped.
Yeah.
But these guys were tight. They're like, this is something fishy. And then you go back to when Han's talking to him, like, everything's fine. Everything's good. We're good here. How are you? And he's like, what is your identification number? He's like, oh, ends it, right?
Yeah.
Like that. They're like, there's something off, and they just know, and they're very like basically attentive of what's going on. Is really, I don't know, it's just cool to see in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work for every plan they try. It's like, no, it doesn't work. We have to just improvise, keep moving, which I love.
It's great. And especially when you have the later movies of like, this is a new battle station and it's still unproven. And we know the Emperor and Vader and Tarkin still aren't totally behind the idea of this battle station.
Yeah.
Like, we get that out of Rogue One, we get that out of Andor. And so it makes sense that the security is super tight there because like they have to follow these new protocols.
That's
and
true.
It's a new thing.
Plus, for a long time, the whole thing was secret.
Yeah.
No one was supposed to know about it, so they're just kind of everything we do is kind of secretive. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Smart kid over here, huh?
Sure, brother.
Yeah, this guy, smart guy of his. All right, the last couple things I wanted to say here. I do love how Leia, she was a badass. She just took control of the situation when they're getting shot at. She's like, grabs his gun and said, we're just doing this, and goes down. And even though Han mocks her, like, oh, great, we're in a friggin' trash compactor. Genius idea. I do like, though, that like George made her so powerful. Like, she was so commanding.
Yeah.
She called the shots, like, we're doing this. Like, these two boys, we got to get them in line. And I don't want to say this because it's just going to fan the flame for white conservatives, but
sure, go ahead and say it, dude. I know.
they just did the character right. A strong, powerful woman wasn't crazy in your face. You know what I mean? It was just done like, okay, she's respected. She's a powerful woman, and I get that.
Yeah.
Not to say that, like, because you got to be careful, because if you start saying, yeah, then why do they always do this with women? It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying sometimes they try way too hard to make that point.
Yeah.
And it pisses those people off when you can do it a better way.
Absolutely,
That's
yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
And George Lucas has talked about that within the last year, where he's kind of like mocked how women are portrayed now. It's like, yeah, you want to create a strong female character, but you just make a male character and make him female. He
Yeah.
said something to that effect.
Yes, yeah.
But Leia is such a cool character because it's the typical damsel in distress that needs to be saved by these two guys. But then it flips on its head immediately. Once she's released, she's not like grateful. Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper or whatever?
Yeah.
And then while they're hiding under cover, when that fighting ensues immediately after she's freed, she takes the gun, takes charge. Like, just such a cool character.
Yes.
And that's built immediately into the movie. And also, I mean, when she's first captured, before she's imprisoned, she's standing up to Vader, like in his face, in Tarkin's face,
She's not scared. They're like, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill all
Yeah.
your people. She's like, she's strong.
So sick.
Really cool. And and then even her mom, Padme, in the freaking prequels, the same thing. Super strong, independent. It's just done so well.
Carrie Fisher, also just a great actress, just a fantastic pick. And like, you look at her later roles, and I haven't seen much of what she's in. Other than...
Angela from Family Guy.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
My favorite role she's ever done.
It's actually crazy. She's in When Harry Met Sally is what I was thinking of. I just watched that the other day.
Who's she in that?
She's Sally's friend. Have you seen When Harry Met
I
Sally?
thought I did. Maybe I'm thinking of, is this the one with no, I'm thinking of the other 80s movie where he's got I can't remember the name. I'm not thinking of Harry. No, I'm not.
You should watch When Harry Met Sally. That's like a 4.5 for me.
All right.
Great film. But Carrie Fisher's sick in that. She's badass.
This isn't the one where her dad doesn't. Shit. Well, I'm not gonna.
No, yeah.
I'm gonna butcher it.
Sorry. All I was gonna say is, like, you look at the careers of these people too.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie Fisher. I was listening to a podcast and they talked about this. Of like, she grew up in the film industry and she always saw it as work.
Mm-hmm.
So when she had stardom as a result of Star Wars, she like didn't really care. Like, she didn't really turn that into a million other movies.
Mm-hmm.
She was just content, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And like, it speaks to who she is as a person,
Yeah.
which, Nepo baby, whatever, but
She did it
Carrie
right.
Fisher was awesome.
Yeah.
And you also look at the careers of Harrison Ford, went on to become one of the greatest film stars ever. Still working.
Yeah. Still going strong.
I mean, Mark Hamill is too, but Mark Hamill didn't have as big a career,
No. Yeah.
hardly at all. I mean,
He's
other than animation and voice work.
He's stuck to nerdier stuff for sure.
He is like a voice actor legend.
Yes.
Which is amazing. And then Harrison Ford goes on to make Indy.
Could you imagine if you met Harrison Ford and you called him Han Solo?
He would
He'd
kill.
kill you.
He would kill you.
That's so.
And now he's Red Hulk. Now he's. Have you seen that?
No.
He's going to be in the new Captain America movie, and he's Red Hulk. He's playing the president, whose name is Thunderbolt Ross.
Huh.
Anyway,
All
sorry.
right. Don't keep up with my Marvel nowadays.
Yeah, you got it, man. But Harrison Ford, dude, he's still just going.
Still going.
And he's still talking about it like he talked about Star Wars. He was like, yeah, I did this movie because they offered me $1 million, like $1 bazillion.
He's like, give me the monies. But he's a great actor.
Yeah.
Fugitive is probably the best I've seen him outside of Star Wars. Let me think. What other movies is he in?
He
does good in 42.
Yeah, I freaking hate 42.
Oh, dude, that's crazy.
It's fine. Sorry, I do have a list prepared. I want to talk about some of my favorite Harrison Ford movies. Go on. While I find this.
Two things, and this is one of my things that I've never liked about the ending of A New Hope, is with the way Vader just spins out into space.
Yeah.
I don't know why I don't like it, and when I watch it again, I just don't like it. I don't.
Sure.
And again, Star Wars is for kids, and that's really a kid thing of like, whoa, spinning out. It's just like a cartoon thing for me. But I just like he's such a crazy dark villain, and of course they don't want to kill him for sequels if they're going to use him, so they want it to be like, did he live? Did he not? I just wish it would have been different. I don't know.
There are a couple of silly things in here where you're like, what is that for? So,
but that's George Lucas doing it for the kids.
Yeah.
And then my last thing I have here is, I noticed this the first time. General Dodonna calls Leia Leia.
Oh, really?
And I heard it and I was like, what? And I went back. He's like, we got the plans from Princess Leia. And I was like, say Leah? I played it back. I'm like, it must be something with his voice that makes it, but it definitely sounds like it calls her Leah.
That's funny.
But that was the only thing I did notice in this movie is they pronounce things weird. I never realized.
Han and Han.
Han and Han.
Yeah.
Alderan. Like people are just pronouncing it differently,
Yeah.
which I don't know if that's just continuity because he wasn't good at keeping up with it, or if it was just like Star Wars is so big they're from different parts of the universe. Who cares?
I would wager to say it wasn't intentional, but I do like that explanation of like just different accents across the galaxy. You know.
Yeah.
Can I go through my favorite Harrison Ford?
That's all I had with The New Hope. So
Harrison Ford is one of my favorite actors of all time.
I don't see him up there though.
He's up there.
Oh, you do have stars. All right, you win.
But I've watched a ton of Harrison Ford films in the past couple of years. I've got 22 ranked here.
Wow.
Can I go through them?
Go ahead. I did not even know he was in 22 movies, for being honest.
Empire Strikes Back is my favorite
Sexy,
movie.
hot.
Okay. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Have you seen that recently?
No, I need to.
Go back and watch the Indiana Jones movies. They're all great, whatever. Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the greatest movies of all time.
Which was originally pitched with Spielberg and Lucas as they were waiting for the box office rewards of Star Wars.
Yes, sir. They were building sandcastles in Hawaii as they did. Seriously, one of the best movies ever. You got to go watch it. Then Star Wars, which is A New Hope.
Okay.
Blade Runner 2049. He's killer.
Good
The Fugitive.
Good.
Return of the Jedi. Last Crusade. Witness, which I think you would like.
I've never seen Witness.
It's like
It's like this guy witnesses something.
no, it's a kid witnesses a murder.
Oh.
And then I can't remember. I watched this year. I don't know why I can't remember it. But Harrison Ford ends up having to live on like an Amish farm.
Ah.
He's like, anyway, Harrison Ford in Chicago movies, or anyway, sorry, Apocalypse Now, which he's in for like a minute, but that movie's too good to rank lower.
Mm-hmm.
I never know if I'm ranking these lists by performance or by movie. But anyway, Temple of Doom, then another Star Wars movie, whatever. Blade Runner, Presumed Innocent, which I think you would really like. He's really sick in that. He was so hot and so cool at this time. In Presumed Innocent, they had to consciously give him a bad haircut so he wouldn't be so like attractive and take away from the story, which is just crazy. 42, Crystal Skull, The Conversation, which is a Coppola film. It's fantastic. He's in it for like 20. Well, that's a great performance too. He's in it for maybe a total of 5 minutes, but for whatever reason, he wanted to make the character gay, and he like went all out. It's awesome. American Graffiti. Have you seen American Graffiti?
No, it's actually, I just put it on my watch list. I need to watch this. I've seen so much of George Lucas. I finally watched the trailer of it. I've never even knew what it's about. I watched the trailer today.
It's I don't really like American Graffiti.
I heard, the ratings just look like,
They're just driving around in cars for 2 hours and playing 50s music. But Harrison Ford is cool in that. Rise of Skywalker, Call of the Wild, Dial of Destiny, Cowboys and Aliens, Anchorman 2. Sorry.
He's in Anchorman 2?
I guess so. I don't know if...
maybe it's just like a cameo.
Yeah, he's just on my letterbox list in there. But that's my favorite Harrison Ford movies. I just wanted to tell you, like, as of this time 2 years ago, I didn't know how big of a star Harrison Ford became. And you watch anything from the early 80s, he's in it. Like, he's just batting 100, dude.
Which is,
batting 1,000, sorry.
We always talk about what's that curse called? Where you get pegged on with your character and you can only be cast in that film.
Yeah.
Like, what's her name? Julia Dreyfus? The girl from Seinfeld.
Yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
She was in that for a long time. She finally broke out of that when she got a show called Veep. But a lot of those people are just like stuck in a role. Mm-hmm. Harrison Ford is not one of them.
He's not. And I feel like that's probably what happened to Mark Hamill.
Yeah. He's just Lil Whiny
Visually,
Luke.
He's always Luke, and that's why voice acting worked for him. But
it's true because you don't know. I mean, he's really good at voice acting. You just fantastic. Don't know. Like he skips from regular show. He's the Joker. Like you would never. I would never even know.
Yeah.
So
it's great.
Yeah. Anyway, New Hope. It's just a legendary film. You got to go back and watch it. You just will appreciate it more. I tell you what.
Yeah. I had to admit this to Spenny, but I didn't get to watch all of it. I just returned to school. I'm an idiot. So I didn't budget enough time. But it's just a great film, dude.
It's a good film.
And 40 or so minutes I did watch, blown away.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, you just rewatch it. You haven't seen it too many times. It gets better with age. So
I mean, for me, it's been a couple years, so it was a great refresh. Anyway, give it a watch.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Yeah, I don't want to give you a specific timeline because things change, but we'll be back with another film.
Yeah.
We're going to do Empire Strikes Back, but when we get to it, we get to it, all right?
Yeah. And hey, let us know in the meantime if you want to hear something.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to get through all these movies if nobody wants this content.
Yeah.
You know?
But watch them with us. That's fun.
Sure. Do that.
It's been
Why the hell not?
Our goal is to go through all 9, 10, technically Rogue One.
Would be interesting if we did this every off season when there's not a show. And so if we did it in a year or two, all 9 movies again. And then
See
compare.
what you got.
Be interesting.
All righty. Well, that's all I got for today.
Same.
All right. Well, thank you for being a disciple of the Force.
Good night.